Most people confused whether to go with Xbox or PlayStation 5. And you're asking yourself, what do I do about next generation gaming? Well, this is probably the most complicated it's ever been. But I'm going to lay it all out for you and help you figure it out. Now that we have pricing and specs for both the PlayStation 5s and the Xboxes, it's time to unpack the whole situation and really lay it all out there. So let's start with each console's messaging. First, let's see about Xbox. Microsoft made very clear that this next line of Xboxes is hyper-focused on games as a service, specifically Game Pass. This monthly subscription will get you access to not just Microsoft first-party games the same day they're released, but also over 100 legacy titles to boot. Then there's the value add of cloud gaming, which is already live with over 100 games that can be streamed to Android and mobile devices, but just not your Xbox console, which I know it feels kind of wrong, but don't forget, with that Game Pass subscription you can download those games anyway. Still feels weird, but let's just leave that for what it is. Game Pass Ultimate extends everything to PC, and then sort of opens up this whole question of, wait a second, I have a decent PC, I have Game Pass Ultimate, why do I need an Xbox? And the answer to that totally reasonable question might be you don't. And that's the other theme of next gen for Microsoft: you don't need an Xbox. You're still gonna need that Game Pass Ultimate subscription, but the actual box itself is not required, and it's that philosophy that really has brought upon this sort of rift between these two historically competitive brands for this next generation of consoles. Microsoft and Sony have two increasingly different ideologies, and this divide is probably no better exemplified than in Microsoft's Xbox All Access plan, a way to essentially finance owning a Series S or an X. There is a credit check for signing up, but if you do qualify, you can own a Series S or X for $25 or $35 a month respectively, and get 2 years of Game Pass Ultimate included. So that's Microsoft's plan to get you in the door. Second, let's talk about Sony's PlayStation 5. Over the last 6 months, it feels like they've doubled down on the notion that PlayStation is a generational console, meaning, if you want to play the new and shiny games, you got to buy a new machine, and that still feels mostly accurate, though there's been a slight walk back, if you consider the new games like Spider-Man and Horizon Forbidden West, both getting PS4 releases, in addition to their PS5 releases. Sony calls this a move in a way to support the PS4 community, as they transition to next gen when they're ready. But it's also clear that Microsoft's concentration on bolstering Xbox's value proposition has made a tangible impact. The introduction of the PlayStation Plus collection is a direct response to Game Pass, even if it doesn't match Game Pass's perks. Like day one releases, we don't know a whole lot of the fine details about PlayStation Plus collection, and odds, if you owned a PS4, you probably purchased a good amount of those games. But if for some reason you skipped over this generation, there is an impressive list of PS4 exclusives, and others really to hold you over on PS5, until the real heavy hitters start to arrive. So where does this leave the games? In terms of short and mid-term outlooks, the exclusive software does swing in Sony's favor. That means, that's the thing they've been reliably able to hang their head on for years now, and there's only going to be one place to play certain games, like God of War. That's by owning a PS5 with Xbox exclusives. The path to being able to play those games is a lot wider now, right? Like you can do that with a PC, and you can do it with Game Pass. Microsoft has done an impressive job of acquiring serious development talent over the years, but the argument for an Xbox as a home for must-play exclusive software just isn't fully realized yet. For overall value, though, that's a different story. When it comes to value at $300, it is really tough to argue against Xbox Series S being the best deal to be had out of the gate. It's not going to get you to that 4K sort of echelon, but it's going to get you pretty close, and it'll also get you into that next generation Xbox ecosystem, where you can enjoy all the perks of Game Pass and beyond for the same price of a Nintendo Switch. but now for just $100 more a digital PS5 all of a sudden seems like a reasonable upgrade that doesn't require much of a compromise in hardware unless you really want a Blu-ray drive, which you might. If you really want to compare the hardware specs of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, you'll find pros and cons on either side of that chart. If you are buying a console specifically for the amount of teraflops, you're doing it the wrong way. Specs are one thing, but until we're able to compare multi-platform games side by side, there's not a whole lot to argue about, and sometimes console exclusives look better than multi-platform games. That is, for example, multi-platform games didn't really look good on PS3, but those exclusive titles were out of control. Bottom line, it's too early to tell. Both consoles, PS5 and Xbox Series X, are going to get you to 4K up to 120 Hz and support for ray tracing technology. Whether or not you have the display for that stuff is on you. Finally, let's take a recap of the things I said. Okay, so you have Xbox, more economical, seemingly better value, and it's all about Game Pass. The consoles will have backwards compatibility with some Xbox One and some other legacy Xbox games. PlayStation 5, slightly more of an initial investment, but more traditional and arguably stronger console exclusives, and what appears to be a solid reason of PS4 backwards compatibility. But there may be other reasons you pick one console over the other. You might decide based on what your friends have, or will buy, even though the rise in cross-platform gaming makes this less of a deal-breaker. And of course we can't ignore the timely release of Nvidia's new powerhouse GPU, the RTX 3080, which, judging from early reviews, is as impressive as we all hoped it would be. It's a more expensive investment, but with a decent PC you've unlocked all of the Xbox exclusives that are going to come out, and with something like a RTX 3080 GPU in your machine, you're going to see performance that these consoles will just not be able to reach. I clearly know this is a lot to consider, it's confusing. All we can say is, just wait a little bit. I mean, wait to see where we are at the start of 2021. How are multi-platform games performing on each console? What is the core console experience like? There are a handful of things we just don't know yet, and won't know until these things are out and in our hands. Don't forget, neither Sony or Microsoft have made a truly compelling argument that the day one, that's the launch purchase, is a necessity, and that's good for you, because it gives you time to make a more informed decision. And there are a lot variables to consider that trickles out between now and November, but the main storylines of this have been set right. We have the clearest understanding of what each of these consoles is going to be able to offer. I hope I have said all the good amount of the top-line detail. You can make a better educated decision about next-gen gaming. Let me know in the comments what you've decided, how you're going to approach these new consoles. Leave a like if you liked the video, subscribe the channel for more videos. Have a great day.